honestly, it shocks me how many people just don't even know about buying Z3 reinforcement plates for their E36. So a big problem with the E36 chassis in general is the fact that the rear shocks, they like that tower that they sit in, effective like it just the metal gets old and it gets weak and it gets rusty. And the problem is that your rear shock, especially if you have a stiffer shock, you run the chance of the shock just pushing through the tower, and that is not pretty. It usually leaves a bit of a mess and just kind of a big old hole right in that strut tower, and it's kind of a pain to deal with, honestly. So this reinforcement, I mean, it's more so a preventative thing, right? Like, you're not going to gain anything in terms of performance or like chassis stiffness or anything. I mean, technically, yeah, you have like marginal, chassis rigidity improvements, but like, honestly, you're not going to notice it. But the thing is that like, it just saves you from having to deal with this massive headache in the event, and usually it's kind of guaranteed to happen, especially on E36s where that metal is already so thin. It just saves you that headache. And the thing is, these plates aren't expensive. I mean, if you literally have $20 lying around, you can buy one of these. And having to deal with welding in, a replacement tower is significantly more expensive and more time consuming to deal with, rather than just unbolting your shock, slipping the plate right over, and then bolting it back up. So let's take a look at some of the options that we have here. Now, a lot of people I've seen, they recommend just going with the reinforcement plates that's already present on the Z3's stock. The thing is that it works. I mean, they're 3 millimeters thick, which is already pretty considerable. It'll already keep you pretty protected, but the thing is, you can do better for not much, if at all, any more expensive. ECS Tuning, they offer a set of reinforcement plates that is 4 millimeters thick, and it is a little bit more expensive. It's at $40 for the set of 2. And then there's also this company, AKG Motorsport, and they have the thickest plate that I've seen so far at 4.5 millimeters. Now, you might be thinking that these are, probably going to be the most expensive of the bunch, but they're actually just $20. So, I mean, I don't want to, shill out for them or anything, but like, it's kind of, why buy the thinner one if you can pay the same exact amount and get that extra, sense of security? So, you're free to go, obviously, buy whatever you want. But one thing I do advise is just avoiding at all costs any of the, parts that are advertised as being a bottom mount conversion. Now, essentially what this does is you have the reinforcement plate, and basically what they want you to do is they want you to remove the top hat for your coilover or your shock or whatever you might have. And so they want you to remove the top hat and use this one in place of that. The problem is that it slips over that tower in the rear, which means that your studs are going to be facing downwards into the wheel well. Now, this doesn't initially, it may or may not sound like an issue, but from personal experience from one of my cars, my Infiniti G35 that I owned, it had bottom facing mounting for the shocks, and just it's not worth it. Because you're facing the studs into the wheel well, so you run into issues with salt spray, if you live in the Rust Belt like me, and your wheels are there, like it just kicks up so much dirt and stuff onto those studs, and it's more likely to rust out. And it's just, it's really not worth it. If you already have a shock or a coilover, I don't really see any reason why you wouldn't want to just keep the standard top mount configuration. It's not even like it's really that hard to, take a couple trim pieces out of the trunk and then just stick this guy on there. Yeah, my bottom mounts, they were not looking good. I remember when I was, this is personal little anecdote, but I remember when I was installing coilovers on my Infinity, and I literally could not get one of the sides, the shock that was mounted there. I literally couldn't get it off because before I even went to like take it off, that stud had just no threads left. One of the nuts was entirely just welded on there, basically. Some of the other things that can happen on the E36 rear shock mount, just that area of the body, you can have something called mushrooming happen, which does not look pretty, and once again incredibly painful and difficult to deal with. Another thing that happens is tearing or cracking of the tower, and that one's a little bit more simple to fix. It's just some welding, I guess. Technically, it's not the most, it's not the best solution, but like, yeah, it's just, at the end of the day, it's really not worth it. Now, I don't think that it's really necessary to go with, these thick 4.5 millimeter plates. I personally do have them just because it was $20. Why not? But it's really not necessary, I think, unless you're, taking your car to like the track or something like that. I think the stock Z3 plates would be perfectly fine as well. Yeah, so one of the big things is like if you are lowered or just your suspension's stiffer in any sort of way, I really think that these plates are kind of a must-have, just because you have that added sense of security. And the last thing that you want is you don't want your coilover to just start like get ripped out from the hole that it's in, and then either it'll start every time you hit a bump and it compresses, it'll smack up against your wheel well because it's no longer sitting inside the mount. Or worst case scenario, that entire mount area just completely breaks, and now you have your shock just, through the hole. And it's not pretty. I would honestly say like this isn't, I wouldn't really even consider it like a mod or anything. It's kind of, I would almost consider like preventative maintenance basically. But like, the thing is that, it's not glamorous, right? It's not like lowering your car, buying new wheels, or, doing some sort of like power mod. But the thing is that like, if you look at it, like depending on how you look at it, you can kind of see this almost as like a way to allow you to, do more of those kind of fancy glamorous mods, just because like you're going to spend so much less money on fixing an issue that, may occur should you not have decided to reinforce, a notoriously weak part of your E36's chassis. And this is like, I mean, it's only like scratching the surface of just E36 chassis reinforcement parts that you can buy. Like, there's so many weak areas on these cars that, especially, given their age now, I mean, E36s are literally older than me. It just, I mean, they're becoming more and more necessary. Either rust or just age, over time, it just eats away the durability of this metal. And, I think there's an increasing need for these kind of parts to be installed on the car just to, keep them on the road for as long as possible. Anyways, though, that's it for me. I know this video is probably going to be really short, but I just wanted to, kind of spread some word about these reinforcement plates. Just kind of shed some light on how necessary they are, because I see way too many people not using these, and then they have to deal with, either a cracked tower or their shock mushrooming. or just, even worse, the whole shock just punching through the mount. Anyways, yeah, if you like the video, then, be sure to subscribe. I'm going to keep making more of these. Leave a like if you enjoyed it. Helps me out a lot. And, yeah, see you in the next one.